While a lot of people come for the beauty and the cheapness of Ecuador, one thing that trumps all of that is how delicious the food is over here. And there are some things that you probably don't know about Ecuador's food, like the fact that Taste Atlas recently ranked Encebollado as the second best fish soup in the world. I mean, look at this. Look at this. How is it possible that Encebollado is fourth? Fourth? Are you kidding me? And don't let yourself get fooled by the hype. There's a long-standing argument of where Encebollado originates from, and thus where you can have the best encebollados. What? Again with this Taste Atlas? Of course everyone is gonna believe the best encebollados in Guayaquil if that's the only place you... You may find tasty places in Guayaquil, but the best of the best encebollados, and not just in one, but in various restaurants, are found here in Puerto Viejo. And if you didn't know about any of that, don't worry about it. Let's talk about more food-related things that you might not know about Ecuador. And just to make this interesting, leave me a comment down below and let me know how many things you learned about today. So going back to Puerto Viejo, did you know that Puerto Viejo is recognized as a gastronomic creative city by the Unesco? The reason for this is because it has many foods that are recognized as intangible cultural heritages, such as empanadas, biche, and ceviche. So make sure to stop by for more than just encebollado. Though I wouldn't blame you if you just came for the encebollado. It's the best. And this actually brings up an interesting debate that a lot of Ecuadorians have, and that is, which is better, encebollado or ceviche? The reason I think this happens is because they're both breakfast dishes that contain fish. But the difference is that one is hot and the other is cold, and one tends to be pricier than the other. So which one is better? Well, I have my opinion, but I'll let you decide when you try them out yourself. Oh, and one thing to note about ceviche is to not confuse the ceviche in Ecuador with the ceviche from Peru. Ecuadorian ceviche is more like a soup, while Peruvian ceviche is more like a fish dish. It's good to know this so you don't end up expecting the wrong dish in the wrong country. And also, in some countries, you can actually order these dishes, so make sure to order the right one, the Ecuadorian one. But anyways, let's move away from the dishes themselves and talk a little bit about where they're made. See, maybe you did or you didn't know that all of Ecuador's dishes can generally be found all around Ecuador, which seems obvious since no matter what, you're still in Ecuador when you're looking for these dishes. But don't be fooled. You won't get the same experience eating some of the dishes in one part of the country as you would eating them in a different part of the country. And this actually leads to a very big tip that most Ecuadorians here will give you, which is to not eat coastal food in the highlands, because it's not going to taste the same. Most people I know have had bad experiences eating coastal food in the highlands, so it's definitely recommended that you not eat the coastal food over there. Now that we talked a little bit about the more formal dishes, let's talk a little bit about fast and street food. If you know about and have eaten at KFC, you might already know that it does exist over here. But it's a little bit different than it is anywhere else in the world. The main difference being the fact that you don't get the typical mashed potatoes and gravy that you get in a normal KFC, which I always thought was a very important part of the meal. Over here, you actually get French fries instead of mashed potatoes and gravy. And it's not like you get the choice. They only serve French fries as the side dish with your chicken that you order from KFC. And while we're on the topic of French fries, it's actually not uncommon in food courts to be served French fries as a side dish with most of your meals. Most meals come with the main dish, which can be some kind of chicken or meat, French fries, rice, and most of the time, maybe a salad. And speaking of things you'll find frequently, and not just in food courts, but also on the streets, is mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is like the preferred condiment here for most foods, street foods and fast foods in general, here in Ecuador. What I find the most interesting about this though, is the fact that a lot of places have their own variations of mayonnaise for their foods. Like for example, there's this one place that I really like to eat at, where the mayonnaise that they serve there is mayonnaise combined with garlic. I'm sure they add other things to it, but the garlic really stands out, and it makes it really tasty. Not only that, but these variations have spun off so much that whenever you go to a place to eat, they'll not only serve you the variation of mayonnaise, but they'll also serve you normal mayonnaise itself. Most of the time, people will call these variations chimichurri, but sometimes you'll also hear them call it green mayonnaise. And the reason being because this mayonnaise sometimes is actually green with little black specks in it. And since we are talking about condiments, you might want to know that here in Ecuador, you do get served quite a few condiments with your meal. This could be ketchup, mayonnaise, mustard, something called ají, which is like a hot sauce that's in this little container. But remember, even if you're served all of these condiments, you don't have to use them. In fact, with my best friend Nacho, we tend to say that whenever someone uses too much condiments on a specific food, it's because that food was prepared poorly. So make sure you keep that in mind before you end up throwing a whole bunch of condiments unnecessarily on your food. But another thing that's optional actually doesn't have to do with the food itself, but something that you say before you eat. And that is saying buen provecho before you eat your meal. Now, of course, you don't have to say this to yourself if you're eating by yourself, because that might be weird. But if you're eating with someone, when you're served the food, obviously say thank you to the person serving, and then you can say buen provecho to the other person before you start eating. This is one of the most common things you'll hear before eating your meal, aside from normal chitter chatter and praying sometimes, of course. But it's not obligatory to say it. It's completely optional. I always say it because it's very polite, and it's a good way to let everyone know that you've started eating your meal. It's actually something I've learned that a lot of people do, not only at the table, but also when they're leaving the restaurant. In this case, whenever a person or a group of people finish their meal, they'll get up, and when they're walking out the restaurant, whatever table that they walk by, they'll say buen provecho to the people at that table. There doesn't seem to be a specific rule as to who you can or can't say this to, because I've even seen people say it to families who have already finished eating and they still walk by and tell them buen provecho, even if they have almost no food on their table. But for me, the main reason I would do it is whenever I actually see that the people have food on their table, so that it doesn't feel weird, you know? But once again, it is optional, so don't feel forced to do it if you don't want to. And also, I'm not forcing you, but check out this video next if you want to see more things that you might not know about Ecuador. Consider becoming a member if you want to help me make more content like this, or if you just want to say thanks for the content. Thank you to all my channel members. You guys are the best. Make sure you take care. I hope you learned a lot about Ecuador's cuisine. And as always, ace out.